I want to start off with what is a soccer methodology? A methodology is a simple way to teach the game through progressive steps. So this is U6 through U18. How do you teach the game in a progressive way that builds through the age groups? That's what a methodology is. Everybody is familiar with like Victor Frade and tactical periodization. He's a pioneer, right? But everybody takes tactical periodization as gospel. For me, he's a brilliant man. It's a really interesting methodology, but for a number of reasons, which I'll get into, I do not subscribe to tactical periodization. I do not take it as gospel. So is there an alternative model? And this is really what I've spent my career on, and connecting academic theory to practice session design. So we're going to start right away with academic theory, right? So if we have a cognitive processing theory, maybe with Sutherland over here or Miller, and then we have an ecological dynamics theory, which that's what I subscribe to. I subscribe to a theory of ecological dynamics. And it's really important to understand what ecological dynamics is in academic theory so we can connect that to actual practice session design. So a cognitive processing model is something that kind of relies on memory. You have to access past memory, past patterns, all these types of stuff, where A plus B equals action C. It's like your brain is a supercomputer adding all these things up in a split millisecond to make a decision, A plus B equals C. But for me, the theory of ecological dynamics is based on the reflection of light, where I am the player in a constant feedback loop with my environment. It is a massively important distinction here. And if I'm going to throw a baseball at your head, the reflection of light coming off the baseball is going to tell you the ball is coming at you fast and it's getting closer and you need to move your head. There's no memory involved here. There's no past patterns, nothing like that. So yes, you can change your intentions and all these type of things, but you are in a real-time feedback loop. And this is the way that I view a learning experience on the field. And this is the theory I connect to all my practice session designs. So I developed a methodology here that is, in short here, this is about small area possession, medium area possession, large area possession. Some of this is positional, some of this is straight out possession. I have supplemental exercises, and it's constraint-based training is involved in the whole entire thing. So one of the things about an ecological dynamics approach is this. Because soccer is this free-flowing game that has chaos to it, there's 4 phases of the game. There's attacking organization, transition, defensive organization, defensive transition. To isolate things and break things up into parts is not natural. So for me, I like to keep the game of soccer what I would call a whole. And that really shapes my practice session design. So I will show you some videos about this. Now also, if you have your sessions in the whole, where all 4 phases of the game and it looks like the game, then each player can take what they need from the training session. This training session isn't designed about one thing, and maybe one player needs that one thing. I want all players to be able to pull what they need, because everybody is different. And if you design your training sessions in the whole, you can accomplish this. The next thing is representative game design. This is massive. We don't want cones all over the place and kids in lines. And it's not soccer. It doesn't look like soccer. Game representative means it looks like soccer. It doesn't, where real decisions are being made on the ball that are meaningful decisions that will transfer over to the 11v11 game, 7v7 game, 9v9, whatever you're in, right? So representative game design is a big cornerstone of my methodology. Now, unopposed technical training, rote training, this old school type of Corvair training, for me, it's not necessary. I would venture to say that technical training can be done at home. And team training is decision-making time. It's another very big thing in my methodology. I'll give you a quick example. Here on the right, you see the player dribbling in between cones. There is no coupling of cues. There is no active feedback between the player. They're focusing on a cone. So just like a baseball player, if a baseball is hit, that reflection of light coming off the baseball, the fielder has to couple their running speed to get in the right position to catch that ball in that real-time feedback loop. If you're having kids dribble through cones, they're not coupling their actions to anything. They're coupling their action to a cone that doesn't move. So on the left, you could see there's 3 players in a square. Maybe they have to tag the player that's dribbling through the square. So now that player is actually having to adjust its variability, their actions, their speed, their technique, to avoid a real person who's actually coming at them. It's much more game representative, right? Next, no repetition is ever the same. And what I mean by that is, again, if you're just dribbling between cones, there's very little benefit. You're getting so many variations on your repetitions, at least if you're dribbling to beat kids who are trying to tag you. And then we can make it even more game representative, right? And build it from there. So unopposed, isolated technical training, right? That has no place for team training. This is interesting. This is about Peter Cech, right? He's talking about catching ping pong balls, catching balls off of, wet surfaces and all these things. And he's saying basically, and this is something in ecological dynamics about constraints. If he was just catching a soccer ball, the stabilization of the movement that he would do to catch the soccer ball, he always refers back to his comfort zone and to a technique where he could save the soccer ball. He never goes outside that technique to explore. Peter Cech says, every time I have to save these different colored balls, these ping pong balls, all these different things, it's a constraint. It's a new variable. It's an unstable training environment. He learns to contort his body in ways that he would never have learned. And he says when he gets in a real game, he makes saves that he finds himself contorting his body in ways he wouldn't have done in a real game. It's transferable to the real game. Same thing with Ronaldinho. He takes touches on the grass that he says people don't understand because he learned those touches on the beach. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit. Now, there is no linear way to teach soccer. We can't go and say, this is A, and we're going to go to B, and we're going to make all great players, right? Everybody needs something different. And just because it works in education and math class, you can't compare an educational domain to a chaotic sport like soccer. You have to be very careful to say it works in this domain, so it must work in this domain. I don't subscribe to that. So also, what does excellence look like? So for me, it's impossible to answer. You could score a goal a million different ways. You can pass a ball, you could get by opponents, you can do whatever in soccer. There's a million different possibilities. So I don't really know what excellence looks like because I don't know the capabilities of every one of my players. Maybe in math class, excellence looks like 95th percentile on the college math test or whatever it is, right? That's, again, be careful about domains, right? When we get into, and it's very hard for me to explain the whole ecological dynamics theory to you in this short video, but in ecological dynamics, we have to take a lot of things into consideration. Affordances, shared affordances, perceived affordances. So an affordance is, what is Messi capable of when he's on the ball dribbling? I don't know. But whatever he is, it's amazing, right? What is somebody else capable of? All right. So when they're on the ball and they're in that constant feedback loop, they know what they're capable of, and they'll try to do it. Also, if Xavi and Iniesta see space and Messi sees space, and they all know how to exploit it, and they work together, that's called a shared affordance. They're seeing the same thing, right? And the same thing with perceived affordances, right? Now, when you're making a game model, can the coach even really make that strict a game model? Because what if you have a Messi who how do you know how he's going to solve every problem on the field? I don't know how he's going to do that, so I can't give him a strict game model. It needs to be a flexible game model, right? So these are all the things that go into ecological dynamics that I take over and try to apply this to training session design. A traditional training session is written in such a way, this is exercise 1, this is whatever, we build small to large, da da da. For me, who says you have to do that? You could do that however you want to do that, right? If I notice my team comes into practice and they're really low on energy, I'm going to switch my warm up on the spot. I don't care what I have written down on the paper. I'm going to make it really competitive, really a lot of energy, because I got to get them out of the funk. Because in the real feedback loop that I got, they weren't ready. So I had to do that. What if the first exercise is so good and I had the second thing planned? I'm like, they don't need the second thing. They need this other thing. Like, I want to take them through this next thing, because in the real-time feedback loop, that's what I'm seeing. Well, forget it. Let me scratch it. Let me just do what I want to do and be a creator in real time. That's not for a new coach. A new coach would probably need a little bit more structure. But what I'm saying is, you can be a creator with your team if you're at that level of a coach, and in that feedback loop, you're creating all these different environments because you think it's best for the team. You're not really prescribing, you're allowing players to explore, and you're giving them what they need to get better. And again, does every exercise need to be timed? Does it need to be small to large? Are you coming with preset coaching points that you're going to look for and point out? I'm really not doing that. Because I want to be in that feedback loop, in the environment, to point things out as they're happening. Now, again, we can't give every player what they need, but the environment, if done correctly, can give every player what they need. Now, this is something I'll use Red Bull as an example, right? Red Bull is a very strict game model. We're not going to use all the width. We're going to cross the ball to the top of the box. We don't even care if we have the ball. Just get it at the top of the box. We're going to try to win it, head it down for maybe a target guy. And can we counter press and win it back on top of the box, right? Maybe that's a Red Bull philosophy. For me, it's a very strict game model. Is that really allowing each and every player that you have that has these unique affordances to explore solutions? I personally would argue against that. I don't think that is. And then let's take that even further. If I'm in the U12 Red Bull Academy and I'm forced to play that style where I'm just going to hit balls and press, my perceived affordances are going to get, in my opinion, they're going to get influenced too heavily. And at this point are you really allowing your players to develop if the game model is so strict? You're not letting players learn from their own decisions and make their own decisions. And are you forcing them to perceive the game in a certain way? Have to be very, very careful about as well. Solution creation, behavior change, these types of things is all about, this could be video analysis, helps the player, give them a different perspective. It's obviously about putting them in a million different environments to give them different solution creations. The kids who play beach soccer, the kids who play futsal, all these types of things, give them new solutions. This isn't a coach giving them instruction and teaching them special techniques. This is about the environment and the relationship between the player and the environment, developing over time unique skill sets. Does football give the Brazilians a unique skill set without the coach present? Absolutely 100%. I'm going to give you a quick example about doing things that we always did. Every coach says, all right, MLS Final, this is Seattle against Columbus, 2 goals to the back post. The defense was caught, the center back was caught looking at the ball, didn't scan his shoulder. The outside right back was caught up the field, didn't recover quick enough. So typically, if this wasn't the final, the next practice week would be, hey, we need to really do defensive training sessions. We have to go back to the same defensive training session we do every single week, shift left, shift right. For me, all nonsense. And the reason I say that is, are they learning anything? No, they're just going through a pattern. They're not learning anything. How about taking the center back, making him play center mid with the U19s, so he's forced to constantly get in the habit of scanning? How about that right back who wasn't really a right back and they made him play right back? How about making him play right center back, so he has to be in charge of the right back, so he gets a different perspective? You're changing his perspective, right? You're not going through the same defensive shifting patterns that you always do. It's different, because I really think there's limited value in pattern play altogether. What is pattern play? How are people really learning? Is there meaningful decisions? Is it game representative? Is there real coupling of cues? I would say no. Here's a little video on whole versus part.
Hey everybody, what I want to talk to you today about is the whole versus breaking things up into parts. So if you see here, this team in blue is practicing a low block, which is 5-3-1-1 essentially in the formation. They might only have actually 9 players on the field now, but 5-3-1, and if we add the other one, it would be a 5-3-1-1. While the gray team has 10 players. Now this is the whole. This isn't fabricated. This is not a moment in time where we're just focusing on this defensive part. All 4 phases of the game are here in this exercise because the blue team, once they get possession of the ball, is trying to score on 3 counter goals, which are just over half field. So again, you could see this is already the whole exercise. This isn't broken up into 1 line or 2 lines. And I'm going to show you in this next slide um, what that would look like. So now you have just one defensive unit line working together. What I'm telling you right now is I am going to try to change this in my own coaching. I am no longer going to break things down to the best of my ability into parts. I want to keep things in a whole because there's real game cues, it's real coupling, it is the game, and that's where the most transfer and learning is going to take place. Now, as you see here, we have finishing, right? And this is actually 5v3 in the box. Both wingers can come in from either side. We can keep the ball on the ground. We could cross it, whatever it is. If the red team wins the ball, then they're going to try to get it out wide and go 5v3 on this really short field against this gray team, and obviously the width is narrow as well. So this again would be considered the whole. There's 4 phases of the game: attacking organization, transition, defensive organization, transition. So I will favor this over a exercise that breaks things down into separate pieces and just works on one thing. And that was what the
Okay, I think that
hey
you,
everybody, what I
I think you get the idea there. So that is about whole. Now look at Thomas Tuchel, who is also one of the only coaches that I've seen that actually attempts to take academic theory and put it into practice test and session design. And what does he say here? He says he spends very, very limited moments in isolated defense or offense. He understands that the whole is where it's at. It's more important. So are we just doing what we always have been taught as coaches, as players, right? Are we just doing what everyone said? Oh, you have to do this. This is the defensive training session. This is the way it works. This is the way I learned how to train as a goalkeeper. I say there's a disconnect between coaches and the academic community, and coaches need to make a concerted effort to educate themselves on academic theory. It's a massive loophole in the game, because if you don't have academic theory, it means that your practice design is just based upon hunches, based upon random things that you think can work. You know, there's a typical quote from the movie Vision Quest, right? Everybody who's old like me knows the movie Vision Quest, and it's, you know, he asked the guy, can a million people, you know, be wrong? And the guy says frequently. So other things to consider here: donor sports, right? Donor sports are massive. In soccer, it's futsal, it's soccer, it's beach soccer, it's all that stuff. But in a donor sport, hockey is a great donor sport for a soccer goalkeeper. The leg saves, now you see that all the time. Box lacrosse and you know, for regular lacrosse, you're talking about NFL linemen, Wing Chun Kung Fu, right? American arena football has opened up a completely different play calling scheme in the NFL, and it works on skill sets where the quarterback releases the ball, and it gives them much quicker and quicker routes, and it gives them different perspectives. These things are massive. At Schalke, you know, they say they're always different sizes of the pitches, and they're always altering, you know, the training sessions, because they want to see the players who can just go into these different environments, who are flexible players, who can find solutions, nonstop finding solutions. It's very, very important. I love this video. This is a video where you can really see where the environment is the teacher. It's an unstable training environment because of the field. It makes it, you can call this an environmental constraint, whatever you want to call it. This is an unstable training environment, and the relationship between the environment and the players is what creates special skill sets. As I had a player, one of my old players in college, filmed this for me the other day, and sent this to me. I thought it was very, very good. Stop that. Unstable training environments. This is what I'm speaking to you about. You'll see this with the All Blacks, the rugby team in New Zealand, always talking about unstable training environments. Here, we're talking about constraints, right? This is the CEO of Yahoo, and this is a massive thing for me in my methodology. Is complete freedom is not something that actually promotes creativity. You need to take away people's ability to solve problems with complete freedom. If a kid always solves the problem with his right foot or left foot, you need to take that away, because they're always going to solve the problem the same way. Once you give them a constraint and take away the ability to solve the problem like they normally want to solve it, it changes perspective. It's very, very, very important. Changes perspective, which changes solution creation, which actually starts to develop unique skill sets. And it opens up players to become smarter. It increases soccer intelligence. It increases the soccer IQ. Massive. This is a very short video that I'll show you on a player who never played 11-a-side soccer until he's 14 years old. He only played beach soccer and futsal. His skill set is superior. It's just very unique. He played for me. This is some video against an NCAA Division I team. And you could see how he, I'll forward a little bit, how he comes up with his own solutions, right? Flicks the ball over the kid's head right there, I know. He's a futsal player. He's playing right back for me there, and they can't press him because they don't understand what's coming at them, because his skill set is ridiculously unique. And that is not something that is taught by a coach. That is something that is taught in a special environment. Now, if I'm not going to call it a normal coach, but I recognize this. I don't tell him he has to play two touch, and he can play every position on the field. His affordances are amazing, and I don't understand what his affordances is. So I can't constrain him in a game model, but I can put him into an organization, a flexible organization, so he can thrive. But I can't put him in a game model. Is my point. I can give him some structure. That's it. So when I'm actually talking about training session design, just when I train for Organize My Week, I use it in a color-coded method. We have blue, which is usually, if I play a match on Saturday, blue is complexity. You're seeing constraints, you're seeing overloads, you're seeing, it doesn't have to be game model specific. There's going to be some failure. Kids are going to have to come up with solutions in unstable training environments. Of course, it's going to be game representative. Doesn't mean it has goals and goalkeepers, but it's going to be increased complexity. Then we have a fitness component. We can always put that in, but Monday is blue day. Tuesday is blue day with a little bit of fitness. And I can work my fitness in if I need to, 10 minutes here if it's just straight fitness, but normally it doesn't have to be. On Wednesday, we start to get tactical, right? What are we going to do for the next match? What are the specific tactics? On Thursday, we stay with tactics and we can mix a little blue in. And then on Friday, it's game review, and Saturday's match game. That's how I do this. And that's a typical week for me right there. This is exactly what I said. No game model. It doesn't have to be positional. It's very complex. It's the whole over the parts, all these types of things, right? So here's a little video on.
Hey everybody, this is a really good exercise. It's 4 versus 4 plus 4 plus players. So the red team is always on the team with the ball. So it's white against green, and no matter what, red is always on the team with the ball. You can play this 1 touch, you can play this 2 touch, 1 touch with 2 touch on the steal. If you notice, there's a small cone in front of each goal. In order for the goal to be scored and count, the ball must pass over in between the goal and that small cone.
Okay, so you could see there, that is game representative, right? Now, this is something I would use as a warm-up. This is solely for passing rhythm, this right here. So this is, there's no decisions on the ball, but for this is nice and simple, maybe on a blue day. What I'm getting players to do here is be comfortable with little tiny combinations in different patterns and different shapes, different body positions, right? And I eventually want them to up the tempo, right? So this is not about memorization of a pattern. It's not even a game model pattern. This is about little rhythm in a short area. Tactical stuff, right? This is tactical day. If we look at a video of how we would train on the tactical day, take a look at this. Fast forward. So this is a pressing. We're working on a high press. We're working on a 4-2-2 high press. Blue team is pressing in high. All I wanted you to get from this video is the red team, once this ball is kicked from the keeper, the red team can score on 3 counter goals. This is still the whole. It's not broken into pieces. This is the whole. If the red team can work out, they can score on half field. I know this is, I'm sure everybody has seen this kind of stuff before, but it's important to understand it's still the whole. Now, I understand workload and all these types of things. Is there a day before the game day maybe when we want a low workload and we're going to work positionally and a little bit of patterns but when I ever give somebody a pattern, it's just an idea, and I explain that to them. Now, here's something, this is straight from last season. We're doing corner kicks, right? Set pieces. It's still the whole. I move the goal up to half field, and we play the ball until it goes out of bounds or someone scores. But we're practicing. One team is practicing offensive corner, other team is practicing defensive corner, but it's still the whole. Now let's take a look at representative game design. Here's a short video to explain that.
What we're going to go over today is I'm going to take you through an attacking exercise that starts off as game representative, but gets even more representative as we all add all 4 phases of the game into the exercise. So it starts a little bit separated, what I would call part, and it eventually evolves into what I would call a whole, which is the exercise called 4 phases. So we start out 6v4. The 4 blue defenders stand on top of the 18 as a back 4. The 4 red attacking players are with the 2 players in yellow. It is 1 touch only, or you could have the yellow players be able to play 2 touch. Remember, no one could cross that 18 until the ball crosses. This is a very low workload exercise, and at the same time, there is no 4 phases of the game because when possession is lost, there's no counter pressing, and the team in blue, the back 4, doesn't have an opportunity to score. So this is a part. This is not a whole game representative game. It's a part. However, it could be very appropriate on a low workload day. Now we progress the exercise a little bit. We add an extra defender, so you have a CDM in front of the back 4, and we actually added another player in yellow. So again, it can be the yellow players with 2 touch and the red players 1 touch, and again, just you cannot cross that 18-yard line until the ball crosses. So again, this is a little bit low of a workload like the previous exercise. It is still separated into the parts because if possession is given away, there is no counter pressing. There is no time for the team in blue to actually counterattack. So this is still a part exercise. Now what we've done is made this completely game representative where all 4 phases of the game are now included because it's the same exercise as before. This is 7 versus 5, whatever touch restrictions you want to do, but now there's 3 counter goals. So if the blue team wins the ball, they can attack and score on any.
Okay, so you get the idea of how we get more game representative. And I was gonna, if there's any goalkeeper coaches out there, I'll give you some game representative stuff. Like it's hard because goalkeeper is how representative you're going to be if you're just training a goalkeeper. You would actually have to layer in a back 4, then layer in them a midfield and have them play against people. And so it becomes more representative. But I can even break that down for you a little farther. If we're doing, say, collapse dives to the left, right? You already told the keeper the ball is going to the left. That's not representative of at all. There is no variability. He knows it's going to the left. That is not what the game is. So if you want to make it more game representative, maybe we're working on collapse dives, but they don't know where the ball is going, right? If you want to make it more representative, maybe you're not kicking a dead ball. These are all things. Obviously, not everything is going to be completely the real game, but we should always strive to be as representative as we can in training. So, and connecting theory to practice design, I just kind of wanted to show you this slide because with the science part of this, Yeah, we have taken the data from science, from the physical exercise science, and we've now periodized, all our stuff, and we have the heart rate monitors, and we have the GPS system and all that stuff, and that's good. But when you think about the actual training methodology for increasing soccer intelligence and making players in your team better, we have not connected academic theory to practice session design. I don't care where we're looking, it really hasn't been done. This was a little fitness slide, right? And this is pure fitness. Sometimes we do pure fitness, sometimes we don't. It depends on a number of factors. You could do fitness with the ball. Here's an example.
Hey everyone, today this is a really simple passing pattern. This you can do with between 5 and 6 players. Everything is focusing on the details, so receive with the inside of the foot, no wasted steps in between, nice and...
So the reality here is that if you want to add hurdles to this, speed ladders to this, whatever you want to do, if you want to do fitness with the ball, you can do fitness with the ball. Game review is pretty self-explanatory. Here's something that's really, really important. Listen, principles of play. Like at one point, I think it was Columbus Crew had 16 attacking principles of play. I think I said Toronto FC. I remember sitting in on a session. Nobody knows 16 principles of play. When Javinko is the best player at Toronto FC, do you really think he's accessing his memory to the principles of play? He doesn't even know them. And how are you putting 16 principles of play into a game model? That's for the coaches to maybe sit around and have coffee and talk about that, because that's what coaches do sometimes. It's not for the players. Do you have to tell Ronaldo that he can't use his hands when he's playing soccer? No, he doesn't use his hands. He doesn't have to access that memory in a cognitive processing model where we have all these blueprints that he's drawing from. That's not done. Ronaldo doesn't need to access that knowledge base. Yes, in an ecological dynamics framework, we have attunement, we have control laws, and we do have a knowledge base, but they don't have to access that sort of knowledge, right? So my point is, principles of play, if you really think that's important for your players to know, I would argue with you. I would say that soccer is all about understanding how to manipulate time and space. And in game representative trainings, that's what we teach them how to do, whether it's rondos. And when US Soccer was like, hey, rondo's not specific, it doesn't go to goal. For me, it's nonsense. Show me the academic theory. You know what that is for me? That's US Soccer just being US Soccer. It doesn't make any sense to me. So it's game representative. You're learning how to manipulate time and space. You're learning how to keep the ball. Hey, you want to counter press in a rondo? Build up to it. Counter press in a rondo. Do whatever you want to do. Formations. Everybody talks about formations. Formations is 10 yards between players, right? And a formation is a formation when? Before the ball is kicked, right? Formations are ever changing in this chaotic game of soccer. It's all about players understanding how to manipulate time and space. And there are certain intelligence factors that if we're attacking and we have so many players forward, what happens if we lose the ball? Who on our team is actually organizing against a counterattack in case we lose the ball? Are we defensively balanced? Like, these are things that we do have to have in our intelligence, right? I made my own soccer session planner here. But if you see how simple, the only reason I show you this is it's so simple. This is about ideas, right? These are your environments. I call them environments. And I don't have preset coaching notes on this. John Wooden, maybe a little bit different, but what I liked about John Wooden is on all his coaching notes, he wrote down his observations about that. How can I make this better next time? I love that. That's really good. A couple of coaching things just to keep in mind. It's all about meaningful decisions on the ball, right? Are players learning to exploit time and space in every exercise? Are they game-based, meaning game representative game design? This is massive for me, especially in youth soccer. Is the ball rolling 85% of the time? Are kids really, if you video your practice, are the kids making decisions and actually playing soccer 85% of the time? I know there's workload involved in this, especially in the college game and beyond and all that stuff. But really, if it doesn't look like soccer and they're only playing 15% of the time, and I can give you examples, like if you're playing 4v4 and you're having throw-ins, or you're having to make the boy, girl, boy, whatever, pass the ball in, have them dribble in, have a pass in, if they need to. But there's always going to be 4 against 3 if you're playing 4v4. So let them dribble the ball in, right? Is there variability? Does the workload make sense in your training session? And because you have to be a master of creating environments, right? You have to pull strings. You have to know how to create these meaningful environments so every player can get what they need out of it. It doesn't mean you have to insert yourself. There's that famous picture of Johan Cruyff saying to Pep Guardiola, go sit on the ball. Let's observe. Observe more, talk less. And here's the thing. Verbally, people cannot comprehend. They don't learn from verbal instructions. There's very little that you're going to get. Very little. Some, but very little. Don't think the environment is such a more meaningful teacher. Here's my big message for you today too, is the future of the game is in the brain, right? And for me, it's about ecological dynamics, academic theory, and I would love to give a much more in-depth session on everything that I know about ecological dynamics and how does academic theory translate to your practice design and everything you do. And for me, it's about this. It's not about memory, but it's not about the physical, right? It's not about the physical. The physical has already been maximized as much as we can do it. All these quotes from Javi, think quickly, look for spaces all day. It's all the same thing, right? It's the brain. And I mean, Iniesta to me is amazing. I mean, that is amazing. He is in that constant feedback loop. He can change intentions of what he wants to do, because when you have affordances, you have ability to do something, it's going to close down, right? So that affordance is only available for a split second. Then you have to change your intention and look for a new solution. And then you have to do that with your teammates, right? So if you're playing a positional play type of method, right, a type of system, then you're relying on your teammates as well for all these affordances and shared affordances and perceived affordances. One of the good examples I really like to use with constraints and affordances and you're perceiving and changing players and unstable environments. If I'm a mountain climber and I'm really good at hand grips, when I look at the mountain, I'm looking for a path to follow based upon hand grips. If I make you wear mittens, you are not going to look at the mountain the same way. You are going to have to look for footholds, and it's going to change everything. It's going to make you explore different solutions. You're going to explore different motions, everything. It's the same in soccer. It's the same about creating environments, right? And this is really important from Johan Cruyff, right? Everyone thinks about decision-making. It doesn't mean you have to be on the ball to make good decisions. You have to be in this constant feedback loop for 90 minutes, and 87 of those minutes are you making decisions, but maybe not even involved in the play. Your decision could be to stand still. It's still a decision. It's still soccer intelligence. For me, I'm a hybrid model guy. I'm not a pure positional play model guy where, hey, I have to work it out of the back. We have to use the +1 goalkeeper. We have to work it into midfield, create an overload, switch to the far side of the field, and hopefully we have equal numbers in the attacking third. And if we lose the ball, we counter press. We look to build superiorities. We play in between players, in between lines, and so forth, and so on. For me, if the other team is going to press you high and you have a speed superiority with your striker in their back line, hit a 60-yard ball. Take advantage of that speed superiority. You can do that. I'm not a soccer purist in heart. That's not part of my belief system. This is Pep Guardiola's positional grid. I wanted to show you this because this fits my game model. Everywhere from the half spaces to the fast area, the one-touch zone on top, the low percentage area. I don't have guys whacking in crosses from the corner flag. I put this grid out there and have them actually play. It is a game representative training, half field, in our game model, and they understand what this model represents. Now, if I have a gifted dribbler who is on top of the box in that fast area, am I going to tell him that he can't dribble by somebody? No. But generally, that flexible area with flexible players, it's generally a one-touch area because that's where the most defenders are. But if somebody's special, be special. But this also is a flexible game model, and you see how my trainings are. This is not broken down into parts. It's the whole. This is a poor graphic shown on the other one. Now, this is what I would call like a supplemental exercise, right? So if you see something like this is just a simple warm up. There are no decisions on this, right? I just wanted to show you something like this because, okay, it's not every single thing I do, has to be, or else, I'm going to be not true to what I am about academic, your theory connecting to practice session design. If I'm going to take a few minutes to do a simple warm up like this, it's fine. I'll take a few minutes. I just kind of want you to know where I'm coming from. So positional, obviously, this is something I'm going to get into in the next series of webinars. But there's positional play exercises, positional play rondos, and then there's self-organizing, which you'd call just possession. Because the game is chaotic and not everything is going to be so organized all the time through those 90 minutes, I really think in order to make players more flexible to find more solutions, you have to have possession and positional games. Don't just have one. That's my advice.
Okay, in this video,
Let me just. So right there, I am going to actually wind this up for the first session. I hope you enjoyed a brief look into connecting theory to training session design, to practice design. And I will answer any quick questions that you guys have. And I, again, would always thank PUMA and BSN Sports for giving me the opportunity to do the webinar series.